for watching us here on Halton News, right here on your TV. It's Tuesday, November 17th, and I'm Jessica Kaitting. Taking a look at today's COVID-19 numbers here in Halton, 59 new positive tests have been reported since yesterday, and unfortunately there has been another death here in our region associated with this coronavirus. When factoring in the recoveries, our new total number of active cases has now reached 566. Burlington is only reporting 6 new cases since yesterday, but Oakville's number is up by 23 positive tests. Milton has an additional 25 COVID-19 cases compared to yesterday, and Halton Hills has reported 5 more cases. There are now 10 outbreaks in the region at our local long-term and retirement homes. The newest outbreaks that have been added to the list include the Williamsburg, Creekway Village, Poston Village, Burl Oak Long-Term Care, and Allendale Long-Term Care. The spread of COVID-19 in our region has put us into the red zone of control as of yesterday, which is the most stringent measures before a lockdown. Dr. Deepika Lobo, Halton's Associated Medical Officer of Health, explains what has changed as we moved from the yellow zone, skipped through orange, and went immediately into the red.
Yes, so as you know, the provincial framework, the COVID-19 response framework, is available online, and anyone is able to review and see what the rules and restrictions are for each zone. So when you are in the red zone, the rules and restrictions in the previous zones, the yellow and the orange, also apply, with some additional restrictions specific for red zone. Most of these restrictions are to do with gathering limitations though. So mainly 10 people indoors and 25 people outdoors. That would be the main umbrella. So this would apply to bars, restaurants, some fitness classes, gyms. So it's the gathering limits that is the main thing that is different from other colors to this color. A few other things that are also different in the red zone is team sports. So when you reach the red zone, team sports are no longer allowed to play games or scrimmages. It's only practice, you can only practice team sports with physical distancing in place. Then a few other things such as personal services. So services that require you to remove your face coverings are not allowed to be given to the patrons. So these are some changes that are that will apply when you're in the red zone.
With these increased restrictions, some parents have been wondering how long schools will be able to remain open and how safe they are for their kids to attend. Dr. Lobo comments on this as well.
We monitor our schools very closely, and if you look at our numbers or the evidence that what we have, very little transmission happening actually in the school. The schools have put in excellent measures in place for social distance, for physical distancing, for IPAC, for masking. And when you actually go visit these schools, you will see that our children are so good and so resilient and so true to following the IPAC measures. What adults are finding hard to do, our children are following it to the T. What we have seen happen though, that while there is no transmission happening in the schools, transmissions are happening outside. Like our kids are getting it from someone in their household or somewhere where they had gone for a social gathering or birthday party, and they eventually bring it to the school. But because of the measures in the school, we haven't seen a spread in the school or transmission happening in the school as yet. But the more we see transmission happening in the community, the more we are at a danger of bringing it into our schools. I think our schools are an essential service. I think we need to keep it open as much as possible to the extent we can. But if it comes to a point where we see transmission happening in schools that we are not able to control, at that time maybe there will be a decision made on how we proceed with keeping the schools open.
We'll have more from Dr. Lobo tomorrow, including how our local hospitals are currently coping and if they're at risk of becoming overwhelmed, as well as what the data from contract tracing is telling them about where this virus is being transmitted here in Halton. The Mayor of Oakville, Rob Burton, now comments on the province's decision to place Halton in the red zone and how it's impacting our region.
When you look at the numbers for the folks who are in the red zone, you'll see that Halton and Hamilton are very, very low compared to the other members of the red zone. And it is true that our numbers are rising, and I have to respect the opinion of the medical officers of health that that's a bad sign. When you look at our numbers, though, and where the cases are occurring, you see that they're in long-term care, they're in retirement homes, they're in schools, and they're in some workplaces. And so you have to conclude, I conclude, that our restaurants, our small businesses, our sports and recreation groups have been very, very good about restricting the spread of COVID in their settings. And I am really sorry and regretful that they have to be enduring increased restrictions as a result of this red zone thing. I am glad that the framework has set us up with some discrete identified criteria so we know how to get out of the state we're in. I just wish that we were a little bit better able to discriminate among the places where the cases are. However, when you look at the unexplained number of cases in Halton, what you discover is that there's a significant portion with no source identified. And they're called, as a result, community spread. And because they can't figure out where those places are, they're imposing community-based restrictions. And that's why I am now focusing on trying to get the province and the medical officers of health to do a bigger, better, faster job of testing and tracing. Because without testing and tracing, we are working in the dark. And I don't think that's acceptable.
Premier Doug Ford also commented today during the media question and answer portion of his press conference that the delays in test results that many, including his wife, have experienced are unacceptable, and he says that he will be looking into the matter further. The decision to increase the restrictions here in Halton came just weeks after the 4 Halton mayors requested more transparency from the province as to the decisions being made. So I spoke with Burlington's Mayor Marianne Mead Ward for her reaction to these new restrictions as well.
So the real key message behind our letter was that any decision to add restrictions or lift restrictions be based on solid, transparent health evidence and data, and it was. So they looked at our factor. It was above 1. That's the reproduction number. The positivity rate, 4.5%. Over 40 people per 100,000 infected. You look at all of those metrics, and we met the threshold to go into the red zone. Now, they did change the thresholds, but that was the advice that their thresholds were too high to make the shift. I support that because it was supported by the health table. So when they lowered the threshold, and when you looked at Halton's numbers as a whole, we met the criteria for going into that next level. So that is exactly what we've been asking for, is be transparent, be open about the decisions. And I think it's really important to understand that red doesn't mean closed. It's not lockdown. I know it's an exciting color, like, you know, it's behind me on my wall here. It gets your attention, and I think people associate it with stop. It's open with restrictions, and that is what I've been advocating. Rather than total lockdown, talk about restrictions that are going to help get the numbers back under control when we see them going in the wrong direction. So I'm satisfied that our voices were heard, and that is reflected in the decision that we see that took effect yesterday.
All 4 of Halton's mayors have now banded together again to send a joint letter to Premier Doug Ford, this time with Conservation Halton's Board of Directors, in response to the proposed changes to the Conservation Authorities Act.
Sure. So as long as I've been around, the last 10 years, we've been talking about the awful hydro towers right on our beautiful gem of a beach. I call it the scar on the beach. And recently, Regional Council got a report looking at the feasibility of putting them underground. And Hydro One owns the towers that are there. And they were kind of lukewarm to the burial of hydro wires, partly because of the cost. And so we decided as a regional council that we were going to commission our own independent consultant to look at the feasibility, the environmental impact, and the cost, just so that we would have that information available to us. Hydro One has certainly been in discussion with the city for a long time about when the time comes, moving the hydro towers off the beach and changing the poles from the concrete ones we see to the new modern slender poles. So one or the other will happen, but I can tell you the public is really keen to have them gone entirely. That, as soon as I put that information out, Gary Carr and I wrote to Hydro One to say, look, you got to consider this. Don't rule it out. We really want to at least get the information back. And when we put that information to the public, my social feeds just lit up. People are really, really keen to see them gone.
Building homes on top of urban golf courses remains a contentious issue in the region of Halton. We've seen the community push back against bulldozing Glen Abbey and Oakville. Now a Burlington community group is fighting to keep the Millcroft golf course zoned as open space. The owners of the course have a plan in the works to build homes and condos on the land. Tonight on the issue, Mark Carr talks with a group called Millcroft Against Development.
Let me just get this straight. Right now, it's the golf course and open space, and you paid a premium with a number of other people to back onto that golf course, and the developer wants to build houses there.
Yeah, he wants to put, I think, 45 homes on 7, 40 some on 6. It's around 98 homes, and then the 60-unit condo. But it really, believe it or not, it's not the issue of the premium. It's not the issue, as far as why I'm involved. It isn't because I paid a premium. It's because Millcroft is a beautiful neighborhood. I've been in it for over 20 years. It's a very peaceful neighborhood. It has appropriate green space. And, and we went through the construction of when they did the railroad overpass over Upper Middle there years back. And that was horrific as a resident with the rodents and the dust and the pests. And we went through the construction when they, did the outskirts of the golf course, when they got rid of the driving range. And we still, you would see the effects of that. And so when someone says they're gonna, drive dump trucks and cement mixers through a very quiet neighborhood, and that's gonna go on for, it's gonna be twice as long as they say it's gonna be. And then they wanna reconfigure the golf course to make it shorter. So that means they're gonna be in everybody's backyard. That, there's over 650 houses that back on the golf course. So they're going to be tearing up that neighborhood for the next 10 years. And then there's the chance that, they may just decide to develop the entire neighborhood.
That episode of The Issue airs tonight at 8 o'clock. We do need to take a short break now, but we'll be right back with Sierra Estevez on how she has found the Army Cadet Corps. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Halton News. Sierra Estevez has been in the 2379 RHLI Royal Canadian Army Cadet Corps for the last 6 years. As she prepares to turn 19 and age out of the program, she shares how cadets helped her grow. Nikki Wesley reports.
This week, Acting Regimental Sergeant Major Estevez will age out of cadets. Speaking to her now, you would never know that when she started, she was shy, introverted, and struggling with bullies at school. She still remembers that first meeting.
With cadets, you kind of remember every moment because they're all so different and not one night is the same. So when you go in on your first night, I didn't know where I was going. My mom refused to tell me because she thought I'd be like, no way. So she never told me where I was going. We kind of just showed up. And so they put you in a classroom with a whole bunch of the other newer cadets. Like brand new. You learn a bit about the program. Basically, like parent committee tells you what it's all about, which is not at all what it's like. And then you fill out some forms, and then your parents have the choice to just leave you there or you come back next week. And my mom was like, bye. So I was stuck there. Right from there, it was like you weren't new. You were just welcome. You're part of this now. now you're going to do everything that we all do. So it was really great. And I don't know, but I went back next week. So I guess all that yelling and push-ups was something that made me stay. I don't know what it was about it, but I wanted to go back.
Many people wouldn't be drawn by yelled orders and push-ups, but it inspired Estevez.
It's like a different environment. It was something new to me, and it was something that kind of intrigued me because it was like I could be that one day. I loved being a leader, but I never had very many opportunities to do that in school because then again, I never put myself out there.
Cadets helped her build the confidence she was missing.
In cadets, we don't tolerate bullying. We don't tolerate anything. So you have no choice but to be nice. And I think that's a great thing that we teach because when you go into a workplace, you have no choice but to work with people you don't like. So it was different from school because everyone was so nice to me and I just felt so accepted that I could open up and be myself and nobody would judge me, that it kind of, and people accepted me for me. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. So it kind of, the people and the aspect of cadets opened me up to be more social because it just allowed me to be myself, and it showed me that I have a lot more social aspects than I ever thought I did, all because the people that I get stuck with accepted me for who I am.
In elementary school, she made a goal.
We had to do these like goal setting things, and mine, first thing that I ever put down was become RSM of the Cadet Corps. And my teacher told me aim a little lower because that's so far away. So then it was be promoted to sergeant. And ever since I joined, I always looked up to whatever RSM we had. My closest friend in cadets, which was RSM Chiquez, she became RSM, and she was definitely my biggest, I looked up to her, and she was great. So I wanted to be that great.
When they had the opportunity to go back to in-person training during COVID, she recalls the first time she was recognized as the RSM.
Cadets refer to me as ma'am, and that was completely different because when you talk to your cadets and you ask them a question, they all answer at the same time, yes, ma'am. So hearing 5 cadets scream that, it's a powerful moment. It hits you and you just feel, you feel like you made it type of thing.
While Estevez does not plan to pursue a military career, she plans to take the skills she's learned in cadets and apply them to her everyday life.
What you see Sierra as today is completely different from when she first started. When she first came in, she was very quiet, very reserved, and through the program, developing her into a leader, which is the main part of the program. You see how her bubbly personalities come out, and she's able to communicate, and she's doing a media interview, and she also understands that as the acting regimental sergeant major for the Corps right now, she's responsible for setting an example for those cadets behind her, and we're very proud of what she's been able to accomplish throughout her last few years, and especially in the last year, she's really turned on her leadership skills and become a true example of what the cadet program can do for people.
The best 6 years of my life were in cadets, and it sucks that I have to leave.
Reporting for Halton News, I'm Nikki Wesley.
Taking a look at our local weather forecast as things have cooled down certainly across the region. Here's a look out at Spencer Smith Park. People have pulled out their winter gear. Taking a look into our 5-day forecast now, cloudy skies across the board, but warming up a bit. Only 2 degrees as our afternoon high tomorrow, going all the way down to -4 overnight, but then significantly warmer by Thursday, a high of 9 degrees. Warmer Friday still at 11, and then looking into the weekend, out of your 2 days, Saturday's the best one for any outdoor activities, as Sunday we are anticipating rainfall. And now we'll look to how some of Halton's top companies performed on the markets today. We will be right back. We're taking a short break and we'll be back with the Burlington Food Bank. Welcome back to Halton News. As the Executive Director of the Burlington Food Bank, Robin Bailey, is about to explain, it is expected that this year they've received the most amount of visits to their food bank ever. Let's take a look.
I was just reading a report yesterday from Who's Hungry out of Toronto from Daily Bread Food Bank and the North York Harvest. Both of them are partner agencies of ours through Feed Ontario, great organizations, and they've put out a report that talks about some of the struggles that they've faced through COVID in Toronto. One of the things that I noticed in the report that really stood out was the things that people had to give up in order to be able to pay phone bills and things like that, be able to pay their rent. And one of the very first things that they give up is food. And it's really important that we're here as a food bank to be able to help that out. We oftentimes, when we have a new volunteer come in or someone dropping by the food bank, they'll see, when we're open normally, they'll see a nice car in the parking lot and wonder why that's there. And really what it comes down to is a lot of people were in great financial positions, were able to afford the vehicles that they have, be able to afford the phone plans that they have and things like that. And then all of a sudden struggles hit, things like COVID-19 or even just a car accident or whatever it might be that causes financial struggles in their lives. And now all of a sudden they have to figure out how they're going to be able to still pay those bills so things don't get repossessed or cut off. As we know, our smartphones are basically the one connection that we have to the rest of the world around us. So just remember that there's people out there struggling. Often there are people within the service industry right now that are struggling, and we just want to remind people to get out there, support local, whether it be ordering curbside for pickup for local stores or restaurants or whatever it might be. We know that all of those service agencies are really struggling. Please support as best you can those around who are trying to make things work here in Burlington. And again, thank you so much for your continued support of the Burlington Food Bank. If you need our help, info@burlingtonfoodbank.ca or 905-637-2273.
I'd like to thank you for taking the opportunity to watch us here on Halton News, right here on your TV. We'll be back tomorrow night live at 5. Until then, please connect with us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at YourTVHalton. You can also email us at haltonnews@cogeco.com. Feel free to send us any comments, questions, or story ideas. And you can also find more content on our website, yourtv.tv. For Halton News, I'm Jessica Kaitting.